The calf that has the death diarrhea, she looked like she put on a little bit of weight, but I think that the reason that she looks like she put on a little bit of weight is because she's drinking a lot of clean water. I think that just having that severe level of diarrhea, I think that what happened was that that diarrhea caused her to dehydrate, and she wasn't feeling good, so she wasn't eating. And this morning, she's still not eating very well, but when I take a good hard look at her, she looks like she's a little bit she's doing a little bit better than she was yesterday. And I think it has to do with the water. I think that she's drinking a lot of water, and her water has the chlorotetracycline in it. I used the chlorotetracycline to give her treatment for the diarrhea. I'm gonna sip my coffee. I had a beef and a cabbage stew last night, and that was all I ate. So I'm hungry this morning, so I went and got my sausage, egg, and cheese bagel. I just figured out that you can actually order a sausage, egg, and cheese bagel. I didn't know that, and you know that's definitely what I'm ordering right now. So I'm sipping my coffee. But yeah, that calf, she does look like she's doing better, and I think it has to do with the just her drinking a lot of clean water, and she is still having a little bit of diarrhea. But this morning, I let her out for about an hour. When these animals, when they're not eating, you really got to figure out if they'll eat anything kind of decent quality. See if they'll eat anything. She's not really eating the hay. I got some orchard grass alfalfa hay mix, and I gave that to her. She's not eating it. I gave her some grain, the grain mix, and she's not eating that. And so this morning, I just went ahead and I let her out of the pen, and I pushed her out onto the grass. And she nibbled on the grass for about 30 minutes, which is good. As long as she's eating something, because that antibiotic, the antibiotics is probably just going to nuke all of the bacteria in her gut. The good stuff, the bad stuff, everything. These cattle, the reason that they're able to digest grass, as a human being, if you eat a bunch of grass, you're not going to be able to digest it. All right, the plant wall, you can't digest it. And so, but cattle can actually, obtain calories from eating plant fiber. All right, so and the reason that they're able to do that is because their digestive system digests food by fermenting the food, and so they're able to their gut is effectively a giant fermentation vat. Is effectively what it is. And so the cattle's that's why they're able to digest grass when human beings aren't able to. And so I think she's doing a little better. I'm gonna keep a good eye on her. She does look like she has improved, and I think that she's doing better just because she's drank so much water in the last 24 hours, and the water that she's drinking is clean water. And I did confirm that she is still having a bit of diarrhea. She is still having diarrhea, and so that's what's going on. She's having some diarrhea, and so I got to get that diarrhea fixed up. If the animal's not eating practically anything, then they should if they're not eating practically anything, their manure should be rock hard. Okay, their manure should be rock hard. When they poop, the manure should be rock hard. But she's just she's got a little bit of diarrhea, and that's all she's pooping out. And so I did confirm that she is having diarrhea, and that that chlorotetracycline will nuke all of the bacteria in her gut. But I was actually last night I was thinking about this, but I'm not gonna think about how much money I make anymore. And the reason I'm not going to is just because I've effectively made a lot of good financial choices over the last couple of years of my life. I have made a lot of good financial choices, and as of now, I fundamentally understand how to make money. Okay, when it comes to making money, I can do it from a fundamental standpoint. When I'm making money, I know I'm making money, and if I'm not making money, then I know I'm not making money. And I'm not good with numbers to begin with, so thinking about the amount of money that I make, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything. I know that I'm making money, and if I need money, I can always just sell some of my animals. I definitely have, 5 cattle that are ready to go for market here in 3 weeks. I'll be taking the healthy animals in for the vaccinations tomorrow. And, once I vaccinate them, I need to get them their booster about 4 weeks later. So if it's the beginning of the month right now and I get them their first round of vaccinations, I won't be getting them their booster shot until about the end of the month. And by the end of the month, I'll have 5-6 cattle ready at, depending on how much money I reasonably anticipate that I need. If I believe that I can go to the sale barn and buy 10 animals, then I'll just sell 5, right? I'll sell 5. If I think I can buy, if I think I can buy more, then I'll buy more, but sell more. Selling like extra, it doesn't matter to me, okay? If I need money, I can always sell my animals. My balance sheet is so far in the positive, and I'm actually in a situation right now with my balance sheet that the fail-safe is actually going to go off here in about 2 months. The fail-safe, okay, actually, I don't have hardly any more debt that I can use, and I'm not really even interested in using more debt, simply because my earnings, as of right now, if I add the debt, it's not really going to do anything. If I add debt to the balance sheet right now, if I add a little bit more debt to the balance sheet right now, and I add whatever 3, 4, 5% debt to the balance sheet, it's only going to raise my income by $7,000. All right, I'm not gonna take a 3, 4, 5% risk for $7,000. All right, and also, my income is the amount of money that I make is going up, right? Even if I just take the money that I make and I put that money back into my business, the amount of money that I make is constantly moving upwards, okay? And my whole thing, I'm not going to worry about the amount of money that I make, simply because I'm not good with numbers to begin with, and there's no reason for me to worry about money. I might as well think about something else. All right, I fundamentally understand how to make money. My balance sheet is so far in the positive that it doesn't matter anymore. All right, and if I legitimately believe that I am going to enter, financial hot water, which, I'm so far away, I don't want to give myself bad juju, if I get hit by a tornado, then I could enter financial hot water, and I don't want to give myself bad juju, okay? I may actually even be in a situation where I can actually precondition calves on grass here in about a month. By about the end of the month, I may actually even be able to just precondition calves on grass. I got a lot of grass germinating everywhere, and when I see the grass germinating, I hardly see any weeds germinating at all. The only places where I see weeds germinating is like in between the trees, where I couldn't go in and herbicide the whatever, right? Like under the trees there are weeds, but in the pasture and things like that, I haven't seen, like legitimately like 98% of the plants that are germinating that I have seen are grass. All right, so the herbicide has definitely worked, and I have a lot of grass coming in, and if I just fertilize the grass, if I fertilize enough grass to feed all these animals, it'll cost me whatever, $800, $900, maybe not, if I put gas in my truck, maybe it'll cost me $800. The last time I went and bought fertilizer, it cost me about $575 a ton. So if I buy a tonnage and a half, then it's whatever, right? It's like $800, $750, and I put $50 worth of gas in my truck. So it doesn't matter, all right? And I may actually even be able to precondition calves on grass here by the end of the month. I may not even need to buy, hardly any more grain. I will still feed them grain, but these animals, when these animals are on good grass, they'll eat the grass. It's like being at a buffet, and when you go to a buffet, you're not just gonna wait for your one favorite meal, right? I mean, chances are if you went to a buffet, you're gonna find a couple of things at that buffet that you really like, and you'll eat those 3, 4, 5 things, right? And grass is like one of those 3, 4, 5 things for these cattle. If you get a good quality grass, and the grass has enough biomass, and the biomass is of decent to good feed values, right? You really want that TDN to be at about 65 or higher, and you want the protein concentrations to be at about 12% or higher. And if they're about, if those conditions are met, the TDN's about 65% or higher, and the protein values 12% or higher. You can even just feed them a majority of their diet on that grass and give them maybe 3-4 pounds of grain a day each, and that 3 or 4 pounds of grain a day will put on about an extra half a pound a day on these animals, right? And that grain could be whatever, half total mixed ration with half distiller grains. It could just be straight distiller grains. It really depends on the quality of the grass, and it depends on how large your animal is. All right, and so and when these animals are 90%, and when they're eating 90% of their diet in a good quality grass, it's very easy to keep your animals healthy, because the grass is very easy on their digestive system. The grass just does, like, the grass is just very easy on your cattle's digestive system. And so in preconditioning calves on grass, another big benefit of preconditioning calves on grass is that when they eat the grass, it'll calm them down. It'll actually like release some kind of a chemical in their brain that calms them down, and so that helps a lot too. And I reasonably anticipate that here in about 3 weeks, I will be able to precondition calves on grass, and so that'll reduce my expenses even more for the month. And I got a lot of grass coming in, and I'm not even going to worry about the amount of money that I make anymore. It's an irrelevant topic. It doesn't mean anything to me. What matters to me is that I continue to put in my best effort. That's how I see it. It's because my whole thing is like, what if I get to $2 million a year, and then it turns out that when I put in my best effort, that's all I can do, right? If I'm pushing myself and I'm challenging myself on a daily basis, and at $2 million, that's all I can do, then $2 million a year net is still enough money for me to do whatever the heck on the entire planet, more or less effectively, not worry about money. I might as well, even then I wouldn't be worried about money, granted that I wasn't like gambling, granted I wasn't doing drugs. What does it matter? At that point, it's just whatever, right? Even right now, money, I've actually, I'm not even going to think about the amount of money that I make anymore, simply because I don't have to. All right, I'm not good with numbers to begin with. The only time that I'll really take a look at the amount of money that I'm, what do I reasonably anticipate that the amount of money that I have is when I take leverage. But even when I take leverage, I don't even need to take a look at it in terms of the equitable evaluation or whatever. I don't even need to even look at the numbers. I can just look at the cattle, right? I can just use the 200-pound commodity animal as the baseline for one animal, and determine how much leverage I can take off of that, and I can just get a reasonable estimate. It doesn't matter. But that's effectively, maybe whenever I use leverage, if I ever use leverage, when I use leverage, not if. Because the whole thing about leverage is, leverage, you got to be real careful with it, okay? When you're using debt, I don't use a lot of debt, all right? Like in terms of the total amount of debt that I use, the only thing that I leverage against is the equitable evaluation of my cattle herd. I don't go and leverage myself against my cash flow, all right? In terms of the amount of money that I make on a monthly basis, and the amount of leverage that I use in terms of the amount of money that I make on a monthly basis, about 93% or more of my money, 93% or more of my money is just sitting in my investment, or it's producing a check in my hand. 93% of it. I don't use, 93% of my money is effectively just there, and I can do whatever I need to with it. And the big idea is to use that money to grow my business, right? Leverage against the balance sheet and reinvest the earnings, leverage against the earnings. Granted that my debt to equity ratio is under 80%, all right? As long as my debt to equity ratio is under 80%, it doesn't matter. The check in my hand, I just think about it all as my money. Granted that I'm not gonna like take that money and YOLO it, right? I'm not gonna go into, go on a, magical journey, right? What I call throwing a Hail Mary into the middle of nowhere. Granted that I'm not gonna like take that check and buy myself a mansion, rent myself a mansion, and buy myself a Lamborghini. Granted that I don't do something like that. I know, because my whole thing is, when it comes to me and money, I make, I make a lot of money. All right, I do make a lot of money. I'm serious. I don't even know how much I make. I know it's a lot. All right, and in terms of to get an idea of the amount of money that that I produce, I liquidate about 10% of my herd, somewhere between 5 and 10% of my herd. I liquidate about 5 and 10% of my herd a month, and that 5 to 10% liquidation makes me about $11,000 to $12,000 a month. So I liquidate 5 to 10% of my cattle herd to make $11,000 or $12,000 a month on the average. If I need more money, I'll liquidate more animals, and if I don't need as much money, then I'll liquidate less. But I'm effectively just on track to liquidate about 5 animals a month. But here in about 4 or 5 months, I'll actually be liquidating 10. And then every month after that, the number of cattle that I liquidate on a monthly basis will actually start to go upwards. So I may liquidate 10 in March, and then maybe in April I'll liquidate 11, and then maybe in May I'll liquidate 14, and then it'll actually start ramping up exponentially, and it will eventually hit a point where it's like I'm liquidating 70. All right, I'm liquidating 50. All right, and I'll be getting there very soon. If I reinvest all of the earnings of my business, when I reinvest all of the earnings of my business, and my debt to equity ratio on my cattle herd is under 80%, I would be looking to leverage against my earnings as well. All right, so that's effectively like if I sell 15 animals and my debt to equity ratio is sitting at whatever, right? I'm ready to liquidate animals. I'm taking a look at how much money I will bring home, and I'm thinking about how many cattle do I need to buy when I liquidate these animals. And so if I liquidate 15 animals, I would have to buy like just to take that 15 animals, liquidate them, that would produce me enough money to buy about 30. All right, I'd be able to buy 30 just from that money alone. So that'd be a 15 animal net positive. I could even buy 2 loads of grain and 2 tonnages of fertilizer if I sold 15 850 pound animals. Okay, I could buy 30, 2 loads of grain and 2 tonnages of fertilizer probably. All right, so if I sold 15 and I made enough money to buy 30, then just to leverage against the earnings alone, I'd be selling 15 and buying 45. And chances are, when I liquidate animals, right, that means all the animals would have grown for another month. I'll have unrealized gains on my balance sheet. And if I have something like 100 animals, those 100 animals will produce me like 20 animals worth of gain in a month. So if I was selling 15 and I had 100 animals left over, so I had 115 animals total, those 15, and I was at 80% or less, debt to equity ratio, which I more than likely, I'm the one running my business, and if that's what I say I'm gonna do, then that's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna do that and then just go, buy myself a Lamborghini. All right, I'm not gonna go and say I'm gonna do that and then just, go and start gambling on the weekends, right? And start drinking on the weekends. If that's what I say I'm gonna do, then I'm gonna do it, and that's what I've been doing for years now. All right, I said I was gonna do it, and I did it. All right, and it's kind of turned into this kind of and my whole thing is it's my money. I can do whatever I want. All right, if I want to make $40,000 a month and I only want to spend $3,500, then that's what I'm gonna do. I don't care if you died. Keep your BS to yourself. It's my money. I'm the one with the money. It's my money. I can do whatever the heck I feel like. You don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. Go somewhere else. Nobody cares about your worthless opinion. All right, I'm the one with the money. I actually made it. If I had nothing, I could redo everything in 30 seconds. What does it matter? All right, and if I only, even if this was all I did, right, and I didn't use any debt, and I just continued to run my business, and I only grew my cattle herd by 20% a year. That's all I did. Then I could easily do that. It wouldn't even be challenging to me. That's one of my big issues with it's like I'm really looking to challenge myself. I'm really looking to challenge myself. Like, this is not hard for me at all. All right, if I only grew my cattle herd by 20% a year and that was all I did, I would produce a large amount of excess cash flow. I would produce a large amount of, either way, I'm gonna produce a large amount of cash. I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, 93% of my money just sits in my investment. If I legitimately need more money, I could just sell a couple of my cattle or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. And if I legitimately need a large sum of money, I could just take a loan, right? And then I could just float the debt, and it's whatever. Granted that I don't like start gambling. Granted I don't like start doing drugs. The amount of money that I make it's already so large that it doesn't matter. And I'm the one with the money. What are you gonna do about it? I mean, it's like if you have a bunch of opinions and you have no money and you're going 180 degrees in the wrong direction, at some point, you would hope. I would hope for you. It's like if you're gonna be that moronic your entire life, I would hope for you. If you don't hope this for yourself, then it's what. But I would hope for you for your sake that you would, at least put in the attempt to do better for yourself. Because if you're going 180 degrees in the wrong direction, I mean, it's like at some point, it's just, it's like if you legitimately want to do that and that's what you've decided you want to do, then have fun with that. I'm not here to save anybody. I don't care if you died. All right. I'm the one with the money. All right. I don't even know how much money I make. I make so much money. It doesn't matter. That's how much money I make. All right. And if I legitimately need more money, I'll just sell a couple of my animals. What does it matter? I don't need money. All right. Nobody paid me to do anything. I don't care if you died. All right. If I only grew my business by 20% a year, that would not be challenging for me at all. And, I do have a personal issue with that. I don't want to live in a life where I just, just whatever, right? I barely push myself and, I got a Lamborghini and, I got a whatever, McMansion and, and the people's opinions don't mean anything to me. All right. Your opinions don't mean, people's opinions. I don't care what people think about me. All right. It doesn't matter. I didn't sell my soul to the devil. I made my peace with God about that. All right. I do right by God, and I make the best choices. I make the most good choices that I can with my judgment. All right. I make with whatever, in terms of, the things that are within my reason, I look to make the best good choices that I can. All right. And I made my peace with God about it. I don't care about the judgment of man. I make plenty of money. All right. I don't need, I don't want money. All right. Want is a moronic word. It's it's whatever to me. I make plenty of money. And if I legitimately need more money, I can just sell some of my cattle. And if I legitimately need a large sum of money, I can just take a loan against my assets and float the debt. Even if it's a few $100,000 a year, I would, if I spent $240,000 a year, by the time I spent that money, if I spent $20,000 a month, by the time I spent that money, I would have made it all back multiple times over. In terms of just the money that is in my hand, like when I liquidate animals, I liquidate about 5 to 10% of my cattle herd at a time. And in 4 months, even right now, that amount of money, when I liquidate 5 to 10% of my investment portfolio, is about $12,000 a month. And here in about 4 or 5 months, that will go up to about 25 to 30,000, rough estimate. So, at 25 to $30,000 a month, if I did not grow my business at all, and I didn't even liquidate my, whatever, right? I didn't even, sell my animals at the end of the year. I mean, I would still end up making, whatever, right? Like $325,000 a year. I would still make more than that 240 grand, 50% more than that. And I would still have, whatever, all of my cattle, right? So what does it matter? What does it matter? It doesn't, all right? And I actually, yesterday I was thinking about this, and I told myself I'm not gonna think about money anymore. I'm not gonna think about the amount of money that I make. I'm not good with numbers to begin with. My balance sheet is so far on the positive now, and I fundamentally understand how to make this money. So it doesn't mean anything to me. Money, it's a piece of paper. I'm not gonna concern myself with it. If I only, I know that right now, me doing this is not difficult for me at all. I could probably even do a 500% more than this, and it won't even be difficult for me at all. And if I do 500% more, I mean, there is a very real possibility that my income goes somewhere around, about $2 million a year. The amount of money that I make goes to about $2 million a year, and I probably will not have any difficulty with that. I could probably even do all of that by myself. All right. In terms of the number of cattle, I could probably do about 100 animals a month by myself. I probably could. Okay. I probably could run about 100 animals a month by myself. I wouldn't be too concerned about it, 100 animals a month, I could probably do that by myself. And so, and while I go, if I, whatever, pay a veterinarian to give all my animals their shots and things like that, and I pay somebody to haul my cattle away, and I improve my equipment, and I build new infrastructure on these ranches, maybe I could go further. I don't know. But I'm not going to go from making $500,000 a year to making $10 million a year without going through 1 million or 2 million, right? I mean, if I'm making $500,000 a year right now, for me to go to 10 million, I would have to go through 1 million and 2 million first. And even right now, like with what I'm doing, right? Like with what I'm doing, I don't have any difficulty with this at all. Okay, I'm not, that's one of my biggest things about it. One of my biggest motivations is that I'm looking to challenge myself. I'm looking to, at least put in the effort to try and challenge myself, because I'm not having any difficulty at all right now. Not any. Legitimately zero trials and zero tribulations. I'm not concerned about anything. I'm not even really even putting in, I'm not even putting in 50% effort. And I'm gonna be serious. If I worked twice as hard as this, it wouldn't even, I would barely break a sweat, even if I worked twice as hard as this right now. There was a time in my life when this was very hard for me. Like, I was waking up, I would sleep like 4 hours a day. And I got salmonella poisoning. I got E. coli. I got COVID twice. And I was sleeping 4 hours a day. There was a time when this took that level of effort. But as of today, this is not hard for me at all. It's not difficult for me at all. When I first started, this would have been practically impossible for me. Even if I split my chops open, I couldn't have done it. But in terms of where I am today with everything, this is not difficult for me at all. I could probably grow the size of my business by 500%, and even that would make me barely, maybe then I would break a sweat, maybe. But here's the thing, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I grow my business to 2 million, and I realize that that I am pushing myself and I am putting in my best effort, and I just that's as far as I can go. Even at $2 million, even right now, like if I was legitimately splitting my chops open and putting in my best effort, and I was making myself $500,000 a year, even then it would still be enough money for me to not be worried about money. All right, even then, if I was making whatever, $350,000, $500,000 a year, it would still be enough money for me to just live comfortably. So I'm not concerned about it. Okay, I'm not worried about it. And let's say I go to 2 million and I realize that that's all, that's all I can really do, and I'm splitting my chops open, and then 2 million, even let's say it's 1 million, what does it matter? Even now it's enough money. I'm not even, and I've actually even put myself in a situation where I'm not even going to think about money anymore. I'm not going to think about the monetary value. I'm not good with numbers to begin with, and I might as well think about something else. I got to take my animals in for vaccinations tomorrow. And then, maybe I'll go stop by the store and pick up some purple ear tags and some yellow ear tags, or some orange ear tags and some yellow ear tags, so that I can mark the animals that go in for vaccinations tomorrow with an orange ear tag. And, the ones that, haven't, gotten their vaccinations, or the ones that get their vaccinations next time, I'll give them a yellow ear tag, right? Something like that. I'll think about that. I'm not going to think about the amount of money that I make. All right. It's irrelevant. I make a large amount of money. I don't have to be concerned about money. So why would I concern myself with a piece of paper? It's not going to do anything. If I legitimately need more money, I can just liquidate or leverage against my assets. Even if I spent $20,000 a month, I would make it multiple times over. By the time I spent it, what does it even matter? All right. Spending money is a waste of time. All right. Going out of my way to spend money, it's a waste of time. And if this was all I could do, and I was splitting my chops open on a daily basis, I would still make enough money to not worry about money. If I get to $2 million and that's all I can do, and I'm splitting my chops open, then that will still be enough money for me to not worry about money. It's still a tremendous amount of money. I could just put the money in some S&P index, right? SPY, VOO, something like that, and just make my 10% a year on it, and I would and just not worry about money for the rest of my life, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. All right, it doesn't matter. I fundamentally understand how to make money. I could do everything again with nothing. It doesn't matter to me. My balance sheet is so far in the positive that it's, even if I spent $20,000 a month, I would end up, even if I ran my business sideways and I spent $20,000 a month, by the time I spent that money, I would have made it back multiple times over. It doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't matter. It's all irrelevant, so I might as well think of something that's more productive. All right, like I'm gonna go and buy 2 different color ear tags later today, and and I'm gonna take my animals in for vaccinations tomorrow. That's something I'll think about. Here and but maybe I get to 2 million and that's all I can do, right? And I just take whatever I live. And I could live comfortably. If I made 2 million, I could live very comfortably on $200,000 a year. that would still leave $1.8 million left for me, and I could take that $1.8 million and I could just put it in the S&P 500 for the rest of my life, and just let that money grow, and I would never worry about it again. Okay, what's the most, one of the most important good choices that I can make is to at least, try and put in some effort. All right, like if I lived like this for the rest of my life and just made $500,000 a year and just whatever, bought myself a Lamborghini and put myself in a mansion and just invested in the S&P 500 and just sat on my hands for, I would be ashamed of myself. All right, I would be ashamed of myself. I don't know if I could live with myself doing that. All right, and so that's one of the best good choices that I've decided that I can make, is to at least put in some effort, at least try. All right, it's good that splitting my chops open. It's good. All right. I'm 34. All right. I got I can split my chops open for the next 15 years. I bet. All right. Without hurting my back or anything. All right. I could probably split my chops open for the next 20 years, and I wouldn't even sprain a muscle. All right. I wouldn't even whatever, I wouldn't even pull a muscle. All right, I could split my chops open for the next 15, 20 years, and it wouldn't matter. All right, I need to put in some effort. All right, and if all I can do is $2 million a year, then I'll do $2 million a year. All right, I could live comfortably on even $500,000 a year. I could live comfortably on that, and I can just put the rest of the $1.5 million in the S&P, the SPY, the VOO or something, and just call it a day. I could do that. All right, if I decide that I can go for 10 million, then I will go for 10 million. And if I can do 10 million, then so be it. If I only get to 7,500,000, then so be it. What does it matter? It doesn't matter. Money, it's irrelevant. All right. If I get to 10 million, then that's fantastic. If I don't, then I'm not worried about it. If I do more than 10 million, then that's great. Either way, it doesn't mean anything to me. Okay, money, I'm not going to concern myself with money. That's the thing I told myself. I'm not even going to think about money anymore. I'm not good with numbers to begin with. I have plenty of money already. I make a large sum of money. Even if I had nothing, I could redo everything in 30 seconds. What does it matter? All right, I make a tremendous sum of money. It doesn't matter anymore.